episode of Leatherneck Insider. I'm Leilani James.
And I'm Serena Montagnani. On today's show, we'll hear what the WIU golf team has been up to this fall, and we'll also get an update on the Leatherneck volleyball team.
Our top story: despite the growing number of COVID cases in Illinois, the high school basketball season is still moving forward this winter.
One person who is not in favor of that, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. Leatherneck Insider's Johnny Jazarowski is in studio with more on this story. Hello, Johnny.
Hello, Serena and Leilani. In a special meeting last week, the Illinois High School Association announced the basketball season will start as planned on November 16th, and ultimately it will be up to each individual school to decide if their basketball teams will play. Games can begin on November 30th in an Illinois COVID region or within a conference. Under the IHSA plan, masks will be worn by all players, coaches, and officials during the play. The IHSA's plan goes against Governor Pritzker's decision to place basketball as a high-risk activity sport, which prohibits teams from playing any games and are only allowed to have non-contact practices and training. Governor Pritzker also said winter sports are on hold and would be removed to the spring. Here's what Governor Pritzker had to say about the IHSA's decision to play. IHSA may have their views of it, but school districts know what the rules are, and it's unfortunate. But they would probably be taking on legal liability if they moved beyond what the state has set as a vegetation standard. As for other winter sports, boys swimming, bowling, and girls gymnastics will still compete in season. However, wrestling will move to the summer. Reporting live in the studio, I'm Johnny Jazarowski.
Thank you, Johnny. We did reach out to Macomb High School to see what their plans were for the upcoming basketball season. This is a statement they sent to us. We have received several inquiries about the recent announcements from the IHSA and the Governor's Office regarding the basketball season. We will move cautiously to ensure anything we might approve meets the approval of the Illinois Department of Public Health.
Spring plans are now out for volleyball and soccer teams in the Summit League who lost their fall season because of the coronavirus. Volleyball and women's soccer will play 6 games, regular season schedule, and both sports will host a conference tournament for the top 4 teams in April. Men's soccer is slightly different. Each team will play 10 matches. However, there will not be a conference tournament. Instead, the league's automatic bid to the NCAA tournament will be granted to the regular season champion. WIU men's soccer and women's soccer head coach Dr. Eric Johnson is in favor to updated spring plan.
Very thankful that we're going to be able to compete against our conference schools in the spring, and then there'll be a championship. The NCAA has narrowed the number of participants for that tournament. I think it's going to be 36 for both men and women, which we still, though, have an automatic qualifier. As long as we keep COVID under control, we'll be able to play these games, and we're just hoping to get through that season and have a chance to play those games and get to the NCAA tournament again.
The WIU men and women's golf team didn't have a traditional fall season due to the pandemic, but they were still able to get in some competitive rounds against each other. WIU wrapped up the first ever Leatherneck Cup this past weekend out at Harry Musato Golf Course. Each golfer played 10 rounds, and the best scorers won a pretty nice trophy. Colby Chupp won the men's title, while Cassidy Jerkadis took home the women's honor. Both champs say they hope their play this fall leads to plenty of individual and team success in the spring.
So I want to average 70% everywhere. So I want to average 70% of the greens. I want to average 70% of fairways. I want to get up and down 70% of the time, and that's my goal. And then the scoring average will come with that.
I would definitely like to keep my average under 80. I had it, I think when we had to go home because of COVID last year, it was somewhere around 78. So I would like to kind of keep that momentum with our team just being competitive and knowing that we can actually be a competitive team. Having that confidence in ourselves and knowing that we can climb that leaderboard is something that I really hope we can accomplish in the spring.
Coming up on Leatherneck Insider, David Coyer sits down with WIU volleyball coach Ben Staupy. Stay tuned.
Everyone knows that every sports team has that one guy that gets everyone riled up and everyone ready to go for the big game. But what many people don't know, that as broadcasters, we need that same thing. Brendan Reedy is that one guy that not only gets everyone just jazzed up, but he also has a personal connection with every single member on the crew.
RJ, my guy, let's get after it. Big C, look at you. Boom. Thank you.
Every team needs that one guy that just glues everybody together. And for us, Brendan Reedy is the guy that makes sure every production is the best production.
All right, guys, 10 seconds.
All right, David. Calm, cool, collective, stay poised. Great intro, great show. Let's go.
I'm David Coyer, and this is Brendan Reedy, and this is Sports.
Welcome back to Leatherneck Insider. With the recent release of the spring volleyball schedule, WIU volleyball head coach Ben Staupy and his players are ready to get back on the court and compete. Reporter David Coyer sat down with the third-year coach to discuss the challenges this fall and his hopes for the spring season.
So let's get this started. First off, how have practices been going this fall?
It's just great to be able to work with your freshmen. We never get a chance to really do that. You get what? Maybe they come in July, get to do kind of open gyms, but there's no really structured volleyball per se until August, and then you get them about 3 weeks until you start playing, and that's it. So it's really hard for a freshman to make an instant impact or to really associate him with the team and be able to gel in with the team well. But since we've broken up into these pods, the freshmen have had to have a voice. So they've kind of been forced to have a voice because we have I have 2 pods of 5 and 1 pod of 7. And so you've just really seen them grow so much faster, I think, than I really ever have, just because of the fact that they're being forced into those positions with 1 or 2 upperclassmen, and now their voice can be heard. Whereas instead of 17 people in the gym and they're the ones sitting back going, oh boy, what do I do? That they follow suit. And so at that point, I think it's been going great.
You mentioned you're practicing in pods, so not full team. What have you found to be most difficult about practicing in pods?
So we got the okay to start team last week. So we got 3 team practices, and then now I'm at home. But the most difficult part is not having everyone there. We just need to play ball, man. I mean, these young women, these athletes, they just want to play and compete. So I had to split up the pods, based on roommates, just in case somebody went out or something like that, so you didn't affect other pods. Class schedule's kind of 1 pod. But that's been the toughest, just not being able to let them play. And you got to play the game. We can do as many individuals and get them better individually and break things down to build it back up. And but just not being able to just have the whole team together was tough. I mean, we did Zoom meetings and things like that, but we weren't really able to get the entire group together just to feel, that. So that's why there was so much energy in the gym this week, last week, they were so excited to be playing. And I was just felt like a kid in a candy store. I mean, it was like Christmas again, you're just all excited, and you see the team together, they're smiling together, the pods are starting to intermingle a little bit. So you're like, okay, good. It's, going to work well. And so, yeah, and just that emotional roller coaster just gets you, but that's been the toughest thing, just not being able to have them play the game that we play.
So finally getting those full team practices, a little normalcy. And then last week, Summit League announces its operational plans and kind of releases the schedule for the upcoming spring season. What are your thoughts about how the season's going to be structured in spring and kind of having that schedule to look forward to?
They're giving us a little hope, right? So, I mean, as optimistic as you can be, as a coach, sometimes I think mentally we get a little, down on ourselves or whatever else. But, you're always trying to see the best of things, and especially the players you have and your game plans and everything else. But being able to put it on paper and show the team, hey, we have a schedule planned. Let's go for it. So now you have that goal, right? We can start planning and start looking at who we have first, South Dakota State, then who do we have second. We start breaking those down and now really starting to plan for it already. And so it's nice that we have this break here. It's almost like a couple of bye weeks here that we can start kind of planning. Coaches and I have been on Zoom kind of going back and forth about certain game plans with certain teams and already putting that in and then maybe putting it into practice, based on what we've seen on film and what we saw last year with some of the teams. But it's just nice to actually have a schedule and have the idea that there will be a conference tournament, that there will be NCAA championships, because you always want that something to play for, right? So dangling, that little carrot or whatever it is at the end, I don't think we need to, dangle much for them. They just want to play, So for us, it was just one of those things that it just got them even more excited to see that, that there is a schedule and there is this stuff. So I think that's kept them a little more locked in too during this quarantine. I've like I said, I've talked to most of them, some of them several times, but just trying to see how they're doing as well as that goes. And it's just the focus. They're just, when do we get to come back? The 12th, right? All right, let's go. And that's been the focus. So yeah, we're just excited to be able to have that.
Like other Summit League schedules that have just been announced, your season is going to be that round robin style, playing teams on back-to-back days. How is that going to affect your strategy in the upcoming season, as well as the potential rotation of players in those sets?
You got to stay healthy, right? And I mean, they can do it. I mean, we play, you got to think, when we're playing our tournaments, we play 3 games in 2 days, 3 matches in 2 days. So you'll play 1 on a Friday, 2 on a Saturday, with maybe a 3 to 5 hour break in between. I mean, we played when first year we got here, we had less than about a 30-minute break in between some games that we had to play at some tournaments. And, so, I mean, you really try to look at that, they physically are going to be able to do it. Mentally, we just have to have them ready to realize that this isn't just tournament. This is conference play. And if you look at our past play, whenever we play teams a second time, that extra month and a half in between, you can look, we played them so much better the second time around. And now we don't get that month and a half in between to prepare game plans and stuff like that. So, and that's going to be on the coaching staff. We have to come with a couple different options. You can't just be stuck in your ways. And it might be more, like you said, getting some different players in that can show them some different looks. And then obviously having those different schemes that we might have to break out in the second or third game that we would have waited to break out, later. Or just be, as a coach, just not be afraid to have those changes ready to go. Make sure we have a couple developmental game plans that we're going to use, and don't be afraid to use the bench. If the kids are, playing well, the student athletes are coming out, maybe someone's just having kind of an off day or they just a bad matchup sometimes, we're going to have to pull that trigger a little faster and say, all right, let's go. Let's make the change. And the team has to understand that too, that, all right, we got, to play them within 24 hours, right? You're going to play the same team twice. That usually doesn't happen. So that will be different. And I think just from a coaching standpoint, I mean, there'll be some late nights for the coaching staff, I'll tell you that. And those nights getting the film back and breaking it down and seeing where we're at, and then early morning film sessions and head off to the gym.
Entering your 3rd season at the helm of this Western Illinois volleyball program, what are your expectations for this upcoming season?
Oh, we want to win, man. That's been from day one. I walked in an hour before the season started my first year. It was a whirlwind per se. Didn't win a whole lot of matches, but we doubled our wins last year. We are hoping to at least do that this year. But now with the limited schedule, we just want to perform better in the conference than we have, and make some noise in the conference. Let people know that we're here and would love to make the conference tournament. They cut it down to 4 teams this year, but I mean, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities for us with this team. And I think there's untapped potential. I think it's like I said, the athleticism, just the hustle that this group is showing, the ability of them to play together. I think that's always something you want to do. I mean, you got to keep achieving the best. We want to win. That's why we're here. That's why they're all here. And that's what we're going to do, And if you ask them what we're going to do, you're going to get the same answer. They want to win. And that's the thing is, it takes a little while to try to, get everyone on the same page and those types of things. But I think this year we're pretty excited about where they are mentally based on everything we have. And then physically, they've been coming along great as far as, like I said, being able to train them. But I think the expectation is always to win more than you did, make some noise in the conference tournament, and kind of go from there and see what happens.
Coming up on Leatherneck Insider, hear what WIU men's basketball head coach Rob Jeter has to say about his team's chances in the Summit League this season. We'll be right back.
wins the game! The Leathernecks win!
Welcome back to Leatherneck Insider. The Western Illinois men's basketball team kicks off Summit League play on January 2nd inside Western Hall against North Dakota State. It'll be the Leathernecks' first chance to prove the conference voters wrong. WIU is picked to finish last in the 9-team league preseason poll. Defending conference champs South Dakota State is the overwhelming favorite to repeat once again. Leathernecks went 5-21 last season and failed to reach the conference tournament. This led to several changes for the team. Rob Jeter replaces Billy Wright as head coach, and there are 13 new players on the roster who will be ready to make their mark on this program. We caught up with Coach Jeter to see what he thinks about Western's spot in the preseason poll.
That's where we were. We were the worst team in the league, but that's not where we want to stay. So because of that gives us a lot of motivation. Like, okay, this is how we are viewed amongst our peers in the league as being the worst team in the league. So that means, we have a lot to do. And I know our guys are up to the challenge. The staff is fired up about the challenge.
2013 was the last season the Western Illinois men's basketball team won at least a share of the regular season. How will the Leathernecks fare this year? Let's send it over to Carly Hull with more on that. Hello, Carly.
Thanks, Serena and Leilani. Welcome everyone to the debate desk. Alongside me is WIU sports broadcasting instructor Brian McLoone. Brian, thanks for being here on the show.
I appreciate you having me on.
There's nowhere to go but up for WIU. We just heard from Rob Jeter. The team has a lot of motivation to prove people wrong. Do you agree with the preseason voting?
So I don't, and I get it. This team is completely unknown. We don't know what the final product's going to look like when they get on the court. So all this speculation on polls and where they sit is based on paper. And when I look at the paper, I see some positives with this team. And it starts with head coach Rob Jeter. He's got a lot of experience leading a mid-major program and doing really well with them. Most specifically, he was at UW Milwaukee in the Horizon League for 11 years. His resume there, 2 NCAA tournaments, 2 regular season titles, Coach of the Year honors, and more importantly, his team finished 5th or better in conference 9 times. So Jeter has a proven history to take a program that isn't getting those 4 or 5-star recruits every year, and he's going to get the best out of his roster. And with 13 new players, this roster is his, buying into his philosophy, and that's a good thing for this program.
Jeter is making positive waves in recruiting by hitting up the Chicago area high schools. For WIU to make an impact in the summer league, give us one area they need to improve on.
Yeah, so it's really going to come down to, can they win the close games, 2 or 3 score games? And this is something that the WIU men's basketball team really struggled with last year. Just in the Summit League, they played 9 games that were decided by 8 points or less, 2-7 in those games. So if Leathernecks can get closer to 500 in those games, that's when you start seeing them move past other teams. And that's where a guy like Coach Jeter has a ton of experience playing or coaching in close games. He's going to make the right moves down the stretch, and that's really going to give them a chance to win a lot of those ball games.
It'll be interesting to see when the games are tight, which player is going to take a big shot in crunch time. Kobe Webster was that person the last 2 seasons, but he's at Nebraska now. So one of these new guys will have to step up and get those buckets down in the stretch in close games. When it's all said and done, where will Western finish in the Summit League?
So look, this is tough because, again, we just don't know a lot about this team. So a run to a conference championship and possibly getting an NCAA tournament bid, I think that's just really premature at this point. I think the top of the league is going to look really tough with South Dakota State. They have a lot of their players back, so they're going to be a pretty tough team up there. But I do believe Coach Jeter's presence is going to improve the wins. The roster has a good mix of youth and experience. So I'll say with confidence that I think they're going to compete in the middle of the conference, win some games that they may have lost last year. So 5th or 6th in conference is a good place to start.
All right, Brian, thank you for joining us. That's all the time over here. Back to you, Serena and Leilani.
Thanks, Carly. Just a quick note on the WIU women's basketball team. Their full schedule is officially out, and they will begin their season November 29th at the Bellarmine University.
We are looking forward to that. Stay tuned. More Leatherneck Insider after the break.
Taking me home, taking me home.
Here, I engineer the future.
Taking me home.
Here, I have countless opportunities.
Taking me home, bring me back.
Here, I do research.
Right here at Western.
So we decided to come up with our own top 3 list of games you should tune into this weekend. My list starts with a highly anticipated top 5 matchup. Number 1, Clemson at number 4, Notre Dame. Big news going into this one. Clemson will be without starting quarterback Trevor Lawrence, who will miss the game after testing positive for COVID-19. Tigers were able to squeak past Boston College last week without Lawrence. Much tougher opponent against Notre Dame. If the Fighting Irish can pull off the upset this weekend, it'll give them an inside track to the ACC title and the college football playoffs. Game 2, the Pac-12 is back. So I'm looking at Arizona State versus USC. Trojans ranked number 20 in the country, but Arizona State is no pushover. These teams have split the last 2 matchups. Finally, how about the Steelers and Cowboys on Sunday? These teams are going in different directions. Pittsburgh is the last undefeated team in the NFL. Meanwhile, Dallas is just 2-6. The Cowboys will be going with their 4th different starting quarterback, either Cooper Rush or Garrett Gilbert. It'll be interesting to see who takes the game this weekend.
We also have a very interesting matchup coming up this weekend to watch. The 5-3 Bears take on the 5-2 Titans. The Titans are having a pretty decent season so far. With them having 5 wins and only losing 2 games, I'm excited to see how this game will turn out. For the second game, I'm looking forward to seeing Oklahoma State versus Kansas State. Oklahoma State has a record of 4-1 and Kansas has a record of 4-2. This should be a very close game. I'm looking forward to seeing what both of these teams have to bring to the table. And the last game I chose this one's for the books, as Georgia and Florida have a very interesting rivalry, and them both being one of the one-loss teams, which takes them out of contention for CFP. Both teams have grueling losses, as Georgia lost to number 2 Alabama, and Florida lost to Texas A&M. So it will be interesting to see who the better team is this weekend, as the rivals versus each other in Florida-Georgia line matchup.
That's all the time we have here on Leatherneck Insider. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram and like us on Facebook. Tune in next week for another edition of Leatherneck Insider. I'm Serena Mociani.
And I'm Lelaine James. Thanks for tuning in and have a great night.